Welcome to Land Grant Today. My name is Dr. Jamie Davis. Today we have the pleasure of speaking to Dr. Hotell, Assistant Professor in the College of Agriculture and Food Sciences. Welcome.
Thank you very much for having me.
We have an interesting show today. You are a professor in the Entomology program. And first of all, what exactly is that field and what attracted you to the program?
So entomology is the study of insects. If you think of like butterflies and ants and cockroaches and all that stuff that, we have in Florida that are flying around, crawling around, that's for biologists that are studying those organisms, that's the study of entomology. And I've been around it since I was little. My mom's actually an entomologist also.
Okay.
And so maybe it's genetic.
Okay. So most people that I encounter, even myself, we're afraid of insects, bugs. But as a child, were you always, even though your mom, she was in a profession, were you always okay with insects?
Yeah. I've always been fine with them. No issues at all. Definitely have had my fair share of surprises over the years with insects or spiders coming out of nowhere, and then get freaked out from that. But I would say I'm pretty fine with them.
Okay. Now, a lot of people may not be aware about Pokemon. Can you tell us what that game is premised on?
Oh, yeah. It's kind of an interesting, I guess, with Pokemon, the creator was actually really into insects. And so you can imagine there's just so many species of insects out in the environment that some people will actually collect them. And it's one of the things that we do in our intro entomology classes as part of the students will go out and collect insects and they have to identify them.
Right.
And so that same concept was taken by the creator of Pokemon, where he's going out and seeing all this diversity of insects and put that into a video game where you're going out into the environment and collecting stuff. So it's kind of like similar thing. And so, if you're an entomologist, you could have a little bit of a Pokemon bug, I guess, in you.
Yeah, I thought that was cool. I don't think a lot of people were aware of the history behind that. But let's transition to something a little bit more serious. Can you tell us a little bit about colony collapse disorder and how that impacts the average person or society as a whole?
Oh, yeah. So, colony collapse disorder is for honeybees. And so, maybe some people have heard on the news about the declining honeybee population. And so there's been a lot of concern over the past couple of years on why are these honeybees declining. Right. And so there've been talks about because of diseases and different types of parasites that have gotten into the hives, and then also insecticides. And so there's some concern about the application of insecticides. And so the EPA has taken action more recently on restricting the application of insecticides on like flowering plants, for instance. Right. And so there are actions being taken to hopefully diminish the mortality that these honeybees are experiencing, and they are important because they do pollinate flowers, and then by pollinating those flowers you can get all the yummy fruits and nuts and stuff like almonds, which are predominantly pollinated by honeybees over in California. So they are pretty important to U.S. agriculture, and so we'd like to keep them around for a little bit longer.
Right. Very important. I think that's another issue a lot of people are not aware of, but that is impacting our society in that regard. Let's transition to diseases. Throughout history, malaria, West Nile, and most recently Zika has been accredited to mosquitoes. Is that something that you're working on, or as far as research, or what can we do to prevent the spread of these diseases?
Well, it's actually kind of interesting you mentioned diseases and being in Florida, and you mentioned like malaria and West Nile. I bet you a lot of people don't know that we actually used to have a county in Florida called Mosquito. It was like Mosquito County, way back. And I mean, Florida used to be like, you'd have so many, I mean, it still do have a lot of mosquitoes. And we used to have yellow fever outbreaks in Florida. We used to have malaria in Florida. And with the advent of mosquito management and control practices in Florida, we've actually eliminated many of those diseases. Okay. But with global travel, people going to countries that have and these diseases present and they come back, we still have those mosquitoes present. We never have gotten rid of the ones that are spreading the disease. And so that's why we see, people getting Zika virus, right, or people getting, we had chikungunya. On occasion, very rare occasion, you'll get small little outbreaks of malaria too, that are locally transmitted. And in the United States, okay. Yeah, there's been, I don't remember what the exact, it's a very small number, okay, that it's over the span of from 1957 up till like 2015. There's been a couple actually local outbreaks of malaria actually in the United States, and it's because we still have. We wiped out malaria, but we still have the mosquitoes present in the U.S. And so it is possible that it could bring back, and that's why mosquito control is important. That's why we have mosquito control districts that are very active in Florida. It's to reduce disease transmission. So we have a lot of people working on it, fortunately, and we do have some entomology faculty at FAMU that are doing some research with mosquitoes too. Okay. And so it is an important thing to keep on and trying to.
Question: are there any benefits of having mosquitoes? Because as far as we're concerned, like the average person, we just get bit when we go outside.
Right.
Is there anything positive that they bring?
Well, you could say there's not a lot of positive for maybe some of the invasive species, okay, because they are invasive, and so the natural ecosystem, in the United States is not dependent on invasive species, obviously. Right. But some of the mosquito species do provide a food source for predators that are either, okay, flying around, like dragonflies and whatnot, or other types of insects that are feeding on the mosquitoes, so they can be beneficial in that way. And then also in aquatic ecosystems, so the larval stages of mosquitoes actually are aquatic, and they live in the water. And so they can be food sources for aquatic, okay, organisms too. So in that regards, they're food for they're food for other stuff. But of course, on the human side of things, they can be a major issue, either nuisance-wise, no one likes getting bit, period, and people certainly don't want to get any of those nasty diseases you mentioned earlier. Yeah.
Okay, interesting conversation. It's good to see both sides of the argument there. We have to go to break, but when we return, we're going to talk about one of your specialties, which are bed bugs. We'll see you on the other side of the break.
Your daughter just had her first breakup. Do you A, put yourself in her shoes, B, console her,
don't worry, sweetie. This is gonna happen a lot.
or C, find her a new boyfriend?
Nice, single boys. That was weird.
As a parent, there are no perfect answers. But you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
This is the moment I knew. His future had no boundaries.
There are some moments only the forest can inspire. Find yours at discovertheforest.org.
Welcome back to Land Grant Today. Again, we're here with Dr. Hotell. He's assistant professor in the College of Agriculture and Food Sciences. We're going to transition to an interesting topic. One of your focuses for research are bed bugs. Mm-hmm. So obviously a lot of people are turned off when we bring up the name bed bugs, but let's talk about it. What are they attracted to? So number one question, what are these creatures attracted to?
So yeah, bed bugs are tiny little insects that feed on blood, and they were actually attracted to CO2 and heat.
Okay.
And so if you were to walk into a room and they were present, and you started breathing, that would actually attract them. And so that's like the same thing with mosquitoes.
Right.
So there's a lot of like think about a lot of blood-sucking insects, a lot of them are attracted to CO2.
Okay.
And so just the breathing itself attracts them. And then they also use heat to kind of hone in on where you're at too.
Okay. So interesting, interesting. What can the average person do to prevent bed bugs from entering their homes or schools or whatever?
So I guess that maybe that gets into like how you get bed bugs.
Okay.
So one of the ways that people get them is that they actually, we like to say they hitchhike onto either a bag or a purse or yourself in general. And so they have really good claws that can just grip onto clothing and other fabrics. And so if you were to sit down, like if I was sitting in this chair right now and there's bed bugs, and then they could crawl out onto me, and then when I get up and move, you can bring them to another location.
Okay.
And so the same thing, like if you went to a hotel or a friend's place that had bed bugs, and you leave your bag down, and there was bed bugs present in that room, and they started becoming active, and they crawl into that bag, then you bring it to your house. That's kind of how you get them. And so the ways to prevent from getting them is in areas like, you don't always know if they're present, but there are some places that are maybe a little bit more likely, like that you might want to worry about, such as like hotels. You can take extra precautions and like not put your bags like on the bed, and you can maybe do a quick inspection of the bed and make sure there aren't any bed bugs present. And so you can take like preventive measures like of doing that.
Follow-up question. What are some signs if you're at a hotel or Airbnb?
Yeah.
What are some signs to look for to see if there's some type of issue there?
So bed bugs can be tricky. There's a lot of bed bugs present, which you can always look up online to see what they actually look like.
Right.
So if there's a lot of bed bugs, you can walk into a room and they'll start becoming activated from your CO2, and it'll be pretty obvious that there's bed bugs there. Fortunately, sometimes there'll only be a couple present, and so it becomes a lot more difficult. But you can do like a visual inspection by looking under like the mattress and the box spring in the cracks and seams of those objects. And that's where the bed bugs are going to hide. They're going to hide in those cracks and crevices. And sometimes you'll see even little black spotting, and that's actually their feces. After they've fed on blood, they'll defecate onto the mattress or box spring. There'll be little black spots. So that's a sign too. Unfortunately, there's a lot of things that can make little tiny black spots too. So
that's true.
So the best way to know if you have them is if you physically find them.
Okay. Interesting. Concerning, but interesting.
Yeah.
But if they actually bite you, if the bed bugs bite you, are there any concerns there as far as diseases or?
So yeah, there's not really any disease concerns.
Okay.
And there can be some very severe allergic reactions to certain individuals. So if you think about getting bit by fleas or mosquitoes, I'm sure like if you've ever experienced that before, you might not react the same as maybe your friend or relative. And it's the same thing with bed bugs, where some people don't react at all from bed bug bites. Some people react pretty severely. And there can be a delay in reaction too, which is kind of interesting. So like I've gotten bit before and I didn't react till 3 days later.
Oh, wow.
And so you could stay at a hotel or stay at a friend's house that had them and not react until like a week later, a couple days later, and you're like, oh, you might think now that you have, if you're doing a big trip or something, staying in a bunch of different hotels or hostels or wherever you're staying at, and you react at one spot, could have been that you actually got bit at the previous hotel and you just had a delayed reaction. So that's kind of an interesting thing too about, you just got to, everyone's immune system's different in how it reacts to the saliva when they inject it into your body. So it's
interesting way you put it. We live in a college town.
Yeah.
And a lot of students buy used furniture in some capacity. What's the impact of buying used furniture as it relates to bed bugs?
Yeah, so I know sometimes at the end of the year when everyone's moving out, people put out like used furniture. And that used furniture is one of the prime ways that people get bed bugs. So if you are going down the street and you see like a bed frame or a used mattress or a couch, there's always the risk that it could have bed bugs in it. And hopefully people, if they have bed bugs, they're going to write something on the mattress or the furniture, like don't take bed bugs.
Okay.
Maybe they don't want their neighbors to know, but you know, it's one of those risks though that they could have bed bugs, and so especially in a college town when I know there's like this huge turnover,
Right.
and so, you know, I remember when I was in undergrad, like people would go out to try to find stuff at the end of the year because people were moving, but just got to be careful and, you know, take a quick look at it or investigate a little bit more and make sure you're not bringing any uninvited guests into your house.
Okay. Briefly, for pest control, when they enter apartments or homes, do they typically spray or try to treat a bed bug issue? Or
I think typically the treatments, it differs from company to company.
Okay.
And so certain companies are going to have different strategies in what they do. Typically though, you know, there's not a focus in the bedroom unless you have that on your contract.
Okay.
And so it's, if you want like to have a bed bug service or if you're concerned about bed bugs, that you have them, you usually have to request that specifically. And not saying that, I mean, there could be companies that are doing it,
Right.
but you know, a lot of times there's like a focus, so you know, with cockroaches in kitchens or the surrounding perimeter. And so if there's something special like bed bugs that you're concerned about, you can talk to your local pest control companies and see, you know, if you want them to do an inspection, and they can check it out for you.
Okay, very interesting. We have to go to break, but when we come back, we'll find out more information on how to major in this field.
Every day across America, excess food is gathered by a network of good people at local food banks, giving hope to millions of children who struggle with hunger. They've earned their wings, and you can too. Together, we can solve child hunger. Support Feeding America and your local food bank at feedingamerica.org.
In your new role, we help you help. Visit aarp.org/caregiving for information on how to provide even better care for the person who once took care of you.
Welcome back to Land Grant Today. My name is Dr. Jamie Davis, and we're here with Dr. Hotell. He's a professor in the College of Agriculture and Food Sciences. We're going to transition to the necessary steps if one were interested in pursuing a degree or just finding more information about your program. So can you tell us about the program at FAMU?
Yeah, so yeah, we have at FAMU we actually have an undergraduate, master's, and PhD program. And the PhD program is a joint program with the University of Florida. And so that's kind of a unique thing that we have over here at FAMU in Tallahassee. Another thing that's kind of interesting too is that we have a partnership with the Center of Biological Control, which is between FAMU and the United States Department of Agriculture. And so a lot of our students get to do some work in a federal lab facility, which is really nice, you know, if they want to go work for the federal government after they've graduated, because they get those contacts and they get those experiences. And so if people are interested in federal employment, we do have, you know, that kind of like starting stone, which is kind of unique that not all universities have that.
Okay.
And so, yep.
All right, great way to sell the program. What about students in high school? If they were interested in majoring, what type of courses, especially sciences, should they take, or even math?
So there is some interest in chemistry, biology, physics that they're gonna need to take during the course of their education, which is kind of pretty common for all biological sciences.
Right.
And so if there's that type of interest, then I would definitely recommend students to maybe look at something specialized such as entomology, which is one of, sometimes you'd think that entomology is maybe, very specific, but you can actually, there's so much range of topics within entomology that you can do. So there's people that, if you're interested in the medical related fields, you can do medical entomology, which is like studying disease vectors like mosquitoes and bed bugs and ticks, and which aren't insects, but and also like tons of different types of biting flies. But if you're more interested in agriculture, there's tons of very important insect pests that are in agriculture, such as citrus psyllids. So if we have a really big orange industry in Florida,
We do.
and right now these citrus psyllids are vectoring citrus greening that's causing a huge impact in the citrus industry here. And so we have entomologists working on that. If you're interested in veterinary medicine, there's also tons of different insect parasites that get on chickens and dogs and horses. And so, no matter what you're interested in, there might be something in entomology, which is kind of unique that, you might not get if you're in botany. You got to be in one spot, or if you're in microbiology, you might be in one spot. So you have the options within entomology.
Well said. And I think it's very important for the students to know the options that they have. One last question. What are the employment opportunities for students who pursue this major?
So with a bachelor's degree, I know some people that have done a wide variety of different, gone into a wide variety of different fields, whether it's federal, state, or private, like industry. And so with entomology, I know people that have gone into pest control. So if you're really like to be out in the field, you can either do residential pest control companies that do houses, but there's some that actually do big commercial accounts. So like, if you can imagine like all the food that you get, at the grocery store, there's big warehouses and processing facilities, and they get pest issues. And so they can be like these huge accounts that they need entomologists to oversee the quality control and do training for technicians. And so you can kind of get to see like how food is made, and it's kind of an interesting kind of background view from that. But then we also I know people that are working in the federal government, it can even be for the military as civilian contractors, where you're doing research on things that they're interested in. And so there's really a big range that you can go into with, even just a bachelor's degree. And then you can bring that up with a master's degree or a PhD. And so where you can be doing, leading research yourself at either state institutions, private institutions, or, if you're interested in military, they're always interested in officers for like in the Navy, where they actually had their own medical research units. So if you're interested in, being an officer in the military, that's another option too. And so there's a lot of different opportunities that people in entomology can get, and it kind of depends on how far up the ladder you want to go. So
very interesting. Other than bed bugs, do you have any plans, or are you working on any types of other research?
Yeah. So one of the things that I'm looking at is different types of trapping devices that are a little bit more affordable to use. And so we were talking about visual inspections earlier, and unfortunately, if you just have a couple in your bedroom, it can be very difficult, and it can be aided though by using different type of trapping devices. And so there's a couple of different stuff on the market right now, and so I'm looking at ways to reduce costs on that, and maybe have some more flexibility in where we can place these traps to increase the probability of detecting bed bugs in those environments.
Very interesting. We have to go to break, but when we come back, we'll have final words.
Can you help me with this? My new dad teaches me all kinds of stuff.
Sure.
He helps me with homework.
That would be 3.6795.
Thanks.
Yep.
He helps me with my decision making.
I wouldn't use this one. Ever.
And he's even teaching me how to drive.
And that's why cars have bumpers.
I'm learning so much.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of kids in foster care will take you just as you are.
What's cool about computer engineering is that, especially on the software side of things, you really get to create something from nothing.
Electrical engineering really touches every aspect of everyone's life. I think that electrical engineering is really the one subject that is making the most difference in our world.
The FAMU FSU College of Engineering is a very unique environment. When we talk about combining an historically black college and university, an HBCU like FAMU, with a major research institution like Florida State University, you get a very unique academic learning environment, one that's really enriching, that's engaging, that really allows for really good opportunities for learning and for research and for development.
I really like the personality in this school. Really going around and talking to the professors, it gave me a sense that they really cared about your progress and your journey. And so I really wanted that kind of nurturing to go into my education.
I'm currently working on my senior design project. We were given an electric vehicle, and the task was to extend the range of the vehicle by adding a generator.
Right now, for our senior design project, we're working on the Robo-Weeder, which is a remotely operated vehicle that goes to organic farms and cuts weeds.
Well, senior design is sort of the capstone of a young engineer's experience here at the College of Engineering. It's essentially their first opportunity to put to use everything they've learned. All the theory, all the classroom work gets translated into an actual project.
We have courses that are distributed over many different disciplines, and it culminates in a senior design project that has hands-on working with things that might be an entrepreneurial project, it might be a company-sponsored project, or even electronic competition such as an autonomous robot competition.
The reason why I chose the FAMU FSU College of Engineering is because it's in Innovation Park and there's a lot of research facilities nearby. You're constantly around new technology emerging that hasn't even been produced yet. It's still being developed, and so there's a lot of new things to be around in the Innovation Park, and the College of Engineering is right in the middle of it all.
Innovation Park allows students, especially in my case, I've been able to use the magnetics lab, the power sciences lab, the material research lab. These facilities are some of the leading in the world for what they do, and no other college are they located next to, and our students given the opportunity to not only work at them, but with them and get their assistance, and it's been a truly unique experience.
Electrical and computer engineering is a great field for a major simply because our entire way of life is based upon electricity.
Everything from our appliances in the houses to our cars have so many electronic and computer devices in them that you can be involved in almost any industry taking electrical and computer engineering fields.
As we transition towards renewable sources of energy, we'll need engineers to work on solar panels and different types of generators.
There's just a myriad, a variety of different opportunities for electrical engineering graduates. So it's an exciting time to be an electrical engineering student.
Welcome back to Land Grant Today. We had an amazing conversation with Dr. Hotell about bed bugs and the entomology program. So in summation, why is the study of insects important?
Well, I guess, it ranges over a wide variety of different fields with varying importance, such as, feeding the world. There's tons of insect pests that would love to just eat every single crop that we produce. And so there's that constant fight to prevent them from eating the crops so that we can eat them. Right. And so that's really important. There's tons of different diseases that they can spread, whether it's, cockroaches spreading salmonella in a kitchen that, I'm going, if I go out to eat for lunch, right. I mean, you don't want cockroaches spreading, not at all. Bacteria all over the place, but also you have these disease vectors like mosquitoes and vectoring malaria, which kills millions of, children a year, and in addition to adults. But then, they can be very important in medical research. So there's a lot of insects that are used as model organisms in medical research, where they're looking at different genes that insects have the same ones or similar genes as even humans, and they can do experiments much easier on these insects than doing human tests first. Right. And so there's just this huge vast range within entomology of how important it's played, I think, over the spectrum of our history and scientific endeavors.
All right, well, thank you for coming on our show. Thank you for the information and knowledge. And that concludes our show. We'll see you next week. Thank you for watching.